Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Welcome. We'll call him.
We're here, and we just kind of got stood up by a guest. Not really, but it was not going well getting recording, and we just scooted the recording off to another day, and I'm literally typing to their publicist that we're not going to reschedule because it's just probably not a good fit in general.
It's just not. The thing that they had to offer us was something that we were like,
Don't wanna
okay,
offer
we'll
you.
talk to you about it, but I don't think you're going to like the questions we're going to ask you, and I don't think you're going to have answers that we're satisfied by. So that kind of leads us to what this episode is going to be about.
Mm-hmm.
Controversial topics. And sort of why Caitlin and I haven't been speaking out in support of certain things, in opposition to certain things, why we're not taking a big, broad public stance on things. Things of many kinds, things that maybe are sort of in our lane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're dietitians. Should we be talking about food access and whether or not that should be provided by the government or things like that? You know, you'd think two dietitians would have a lot to say about that. So why have we not said a lot about that?
Yeah, I think
That's what
the
we're talking
other
about today.
Yeah, and the more obvious, maybe Christian things people would expect us to speak on because you and I are both Christians.
Yes.
Things like IVF.
Will your child be dressing up for Halloween?
Okay, it's Halloween when we're recording this. We just, while we were waiting for our guest to utterly fail at getting headphones to work, we decided to talk about what's so funny about all things Halloween and being Christian. So here we are. Why sometimes we don't step into controversy. And I want to start by saying Sophia and I came up in the online space in the midst of a very controversial and highly stressful time, both in our lives and in our world and culture. Our podcast, the first episodes, though it was in the works for about a year and a half, the first episodes got released July 4th of 2020. Okay. What was that year? It was the COVID pandemic. And we, 3-ish months in, we launched this podcast.
Yeah.
We had growing audiences online. Black Lives Matter was a big thing coming up.
Yeah,
Cancel
that's
culture.
Where a lot of like trans rights issues were sort of coming to the forefront, and people were really, defund the police. Like there was a lot of expectation that everybody with vocal cords would be screaming their opinion from the rooftop. And if you weren't screaming at the volume or with the
same message
that your neighbor had, it meant you should probably try to kick your neighbor out of your life.
Yeah. And so I would say there were moments where we were both tempted to jump on certain sides of different debates. And there are moments where we both have made more political statements, maybe on this podcast or in different spaces. But like in that space of time, 2020 and forward to 2025 today, when we're recording this, it's also been a fragile time in Sophia's and my life. We've both built families, built businesses, had children, had pregnancies, had postpartum anxiety, maybe had just undiagnosed anxiety.
Had pregnancy losses, had really scary things happen in pregnancies. fragile life things where we're not feeling like, wow, I just got told my baby's going to die any minute. Let me take today to shout about vaccinations. Like, it's not what we're doing in our lives at this
Yeah.
time. And
And I
no,
and I think we've seen like even just moderate things we've said or not said something about, and even not speaking sometimes has made us the victims of attack. But I can't, if you're not somebody with a huge social media presence or in some way, like, I would not call us famous, but you know what I mean. And you haven't been the recipient of hate mail or hate DMs or hate comments, it's really hard to have an opinion about how that impacts you. It's hard
yeah.
enough just watching the news and the media and maintaining normal levels of stress and mental health. So I would say, like, before we even talk about the things that we don't talk about, I think Sophia and I very early have decided it has not been worth our peace individually as humans, as mothers and wives, as friends, or as Christians to put that peace at stake to make a comment in someone's echo chamber that's probably
Hmm.
only going to hear what they want to hear anyway, or isn't going to consider our opinion because they've already made up their mind on a matter.
Or worse, is just going to rage bait somebody. It's just going to be another energy vampire. And that's something that has really come up in the social media world throughout this time, is people whose hobby, like the thing that they like to do, is just to say really inflammatory things and watch everybody get all busy about it. It makes them feel powerful, it makes them feel important. And this has also been a time of such disconnection in communities, in families, in every way. Like, so many people just haven't been around the people they usually would be around, who would say, like, Caitlin, that thing you just said was actually pretty rude. They don't have somebody in their life who they trust to be like, whoa, okay, well, I'm glad you told me you're thinking that way. You need to really season the way that you're thinking about this before you actually bring that up to your aunt or whoever it was that you were, talking about. People don't have that. They've become more and more insufferable. And they
Mm-hmm.
have fewer and fewer real life friends. To say something like an off the cuff comment that you maybe, once you say it and process it and somebody sort of reacts to it, you're like, yeah, that was mean. Okay, I'm sorry. You don't have that. It's like, once you put something online, there it is. And you better either you can't, unless you're going to like prostrate yourself before the masses and be like, I was evil and wrong and I'm so sorry and everything like that. That is, you can't just be like, oh, yeah, well, I didn't really think that went through. Like you could if you were just like in a conversation with somebody. You have to
Mm-hmm.
either double down and defend yourself to the death, or you need to die to their criticism. There's no like
Mm-hmm.
gentle, like, geez, Caitlin, dial it in. That was crazy. Like, as you would talk with a close friend or relative, like people you bounce ideas off of and say things to, like, I read this article about how vaccinations are causing viral shedding that's killing everyone. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what? Let me see that.
Now, these are not things Sophia and I don't speak about. In fact, Sophia and I speak about these things a lot to one another. And we have a
Absolutely.
healthy relationship to where we can both say to the other person, like, check that. Like, I think you're in your own echo chamber right now. Or I understand where that person's coming from. And I think we need to consider all points. But not all of
Hmm.
these conversations are happening in the public eye. Many of them are not. And the ones that we choose to bring to the public eye are meant to have a purpose and to serve you. For
Serve
instance,
you, the lady who's trying to conceive.
for instance,
Our
this is
goal. Oh, go ahead.
controversial. folate versus folic acid. Do we talk
Mm-hmm.
about that? Yes, we talk about that. Yes, we have opinions that bring public
Scrutiny.
ridicule. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, have we ever made a public statement on this podcast about whether somebody should or should not consider IVF? We haven't.
I guess, yeah, but like, I guess we have in some ways where we're like, okay, if you have this like severe PCOS, your ovaries are enormous, you haven't responded to letrozole or Clomid, do you really think, like, don't go right to IVF right then?
Okay.
Like, we've
Yeah,
said
we've
things
made,
like that, but we haven't been
but not
like,
the moral or ethical
yes, yes,
considerations or concerns. Yes. I mean, today
yes.
I had an appointment with somebody where I was like, the doctor's going to tell you that with this one luteinized unruptured follicle, this REI, I can already tell based on their website, the next thing they're going to recommend is IVF. And there's a lot of options in between. Those conversations are happening based on individual personalized medical stuff. And we'll give scenarios like that, but we're not making sweeping recommendations about IVF based
Mm-hmm.
on our own beliefs.
Morality. Yeah.
Even though Sophia and I are both Christian and we do talk about Christ and our beliefs on this podcast, we also have a lot of people that listen to this podcast that aren't Christians and get a lot out of it because it's not our only thing we talk about.
Yeah, it's not a Bible podcast. It's a fertility podcast. We're not going to hide away the existence of Christ when we believe in that so deeply and it has changed our lives so significantly. But this isn't a how to get pregnant through faith alone podcast, I guess, either. So we're not just going to only talk about that. And
Mhm.
so much of it has become really just in order to keep serving you, in order to put out information that's going to actually help you, in order to have the energy to do that and not fielding 50 emails about how the fact that you did or didn't vaccinate is killing people and this and that and the other thing. How are we supposed to, as full-time moms who also run businesses, who run this podcast, supposed to explain everything about the human immune system and how that works to 50 people a day
Mhm.
when they don't actually want to hear it? What they want is for us to be wrong. They
Mhm.
want us to know that we are wrong and they are right, that they are just and we are unjust, that they are moral and we are bankrupt. That's the whole point. They're not like, actually, let me help you understand this better. They're like, I'm enraged because this is what my take on it. It's people that don't have quality relationships. And so they are like, I have to be right somewhere. I have to be respected and admired. And like, this is a human need of mine. And I've alienated everyone in my life of quality with my caustic personality. And now all that I have left is screaming online.
It's almost like the mean girl personality where it's like, oh, that lady's hair and this and that. And really, they're just jealous of not looking a certain way. But the way to combat that in their own head is to put down whatever it is they wish they had almost. It's not an exact explanation, but
Yeah, because it's like I don't know if it's can be jealousy of many things, like jealousy that
Mhm.
we have a top-rated podcast with hundreds of reviews. They don't have
Mhm.
that. They don't
Mhm.
have people subscribing to listen to them talk into a microphone. They don't have
Mhm.
100,000 followers on Instagram. They've got 14 followers because everybody in their life doesn't like them. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry, that's my take on it. The people that Caitlin and I have in our lives who we love so much from afar and we love them in a lot of ways, but it's kind of like they've really dug their heels in on some of these topics and become so insufferable that we actually like don't even want to go to their house for Thanksgiving anymore. Because
Mhm.
you're like, dude, I just want to like eat turkey and laugh and like play Twister. I don't want to hear you ranting about Trump for the next 40 minutes.
Oh my God. I do not want to eat turkey and play Twister on the same day. Unless we're doing
Why
it
was
in
Twister
reverse.
the first game that came into my head? Okay, Pictionary, charades.
That's so
I don't
funny.
know why I said Twister. I know as soon as I was like thinking of like
It's okay. It was funny. I
your Uncle
couldn't not let
Kevin
it
playing
go.
Twister, I was like, oh,
Oh my
maybe
God. Have
not.
you seen my Uncle Kevin play Twister? Is that a
No, I
thing?
haven't.
Okay, I haven't
No,
either.
I've never seen him play Twister, but it's a funny mental image, isn't it?
It is. We are taking a break from the episode, and I want to chat with you a little bit about Fertility Cloud. If you've been told you need help ovulating, or you have PCOS and you're trying to figure out your next fertility step, I want to tell you about Fertility Cloud. They make fertility care simple, transparent, and affordable, especially when it comes to ovulation stimulation and ovulation induction treatments. Instead of waiting for months to see a fertility specialist or getting hit with surprise bills, Fertility Cloud lists every price clearly right on their website. You'll see exactly what you're getting into and exactly what it costs. No hidden clinic fees, no surprise invoices later. For my PCOS clients, this is huge. Their ovulation stimulation program can help jumpstart ovulation safely at home with physician guidance and medications delivered directly to you. You can do it all virtually, no driving to clinics or sitting in waiting rooms, and you can often even get appointments same day. If you're wondering, how do we do ultrasounds or what about lab draws? Don't worry, their concierge service helps determine where you can do that locally to you and coordinates with you on your behalf. It's just amazing. And here's the best part: if you're ready to take that next step, you can click the link in our show notes and get $50 off your first appointment. That means you get right in front of a fertility specialist for $115. That first visits gets you matched with a fertility doctor who actually understands your needs, and you'll walk away with a clear plan for your next cycle. So head to the link in our show notes, book your appointment, save $50 on your first Fertility Cloud visit, because fertility care should be transparent, affordable, and built for you. Guys, here are some controversial things we have talked about: seed cycling, caffeine, alcohol, metformin versus inositol, folic acid, and folate. Uh, if you should eliminate dairy and gluten just for the heck of it, weight, like BMI, and
Mm-hmm.
conception, and access
Veganism.
to, yes, that was maybe one of the first things people ever really came at me for. I had somebody that purchased my fertility course who was very plant-based. And you posted something that was like, things I'm not going to tell you are healthy for trying to conceive. And veganism was like one of the 5 things you posted. And I reshared it. And I got an email that was like as long as my arm on how irresponsible. And I remember thinking, like, oh man, if I submit to every person who feels like they have a right to tell me what is worthy to share or not, I'm not going to have energy to be on social media. But I think these are really controversial topics and
They
ones
are.
that you need to hear us speak on. Optimal lab values versus like in range, and what that means for you. That's not well respected in the conventional medical community, but it's a huge piece of your journey, probably.
Yeah. Using GLP-1 medications. Should you? Shouldn't you?
Mm,
That's so controversial. There are
super.
a lot of people for and a lot of people against. And I mean, it's also so much of this is like so nuanced. Like, we probably will get released before this episode. So we must have just then recently released an episode about Caitlin's journey with a GLP-1. And in it, we talk so much about like, if you are not already eating, moving, living, sleeping, if you are not dialed the F in on all of these things, don't
Mhm,
use this drug. And
mhm,
people are like, oh, but I can't dial in on all those things. That's why I need this drug. You are looking at this the wrong way, sister.
mhm,
And that is really unpopular opinion right now. People don't like to hear that at all. And there's like, and just in the way we promote things that, like, actually, you do have some agency in this TTC journey.
mhm,
Nutrition impacts your fertility. That statement right there sets some people's hair ablaze. They
mhm,
are horrified by that and hate you for that. like, I had a miscarriage and you're telling me it's my fault because I didn't eat this way. That's how they take this to mean.
Mm-hmm.
And you are so vulnerable in this space,
Mm-hmm.
wanting something so much and something so integral to I don't even want to say humanity, because the desire to reproduce isn't even just a
It's just
human urge.
biological for any animal.
Yes, not even animal, plant, bacterium,
True.
fungus, like
Mm-hmm.
every single thing around you is trying to reproduce. That's it. Do you remember when you were in like third grade and you were like doing your science class where they were like,
Mm-hmm.
what categorizes something as alive? And like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the list of things, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
reproduction is one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that like means something is alive. So down to the very core of what it means to be alive, like reproduction is a part of that. And when that feels like it is inaccessible to you, the pain is intense and the desperation is intense. And those two things make you really vulnerable. And
Mm-hmm.
none of us are above it. We've all bought in some stupid ass supplement at 3 a.m. because we just went potty and saw our period and we're like, no, not again. And you want some kind of relief. So you try to grab onto a gimmick or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
This has happened to everyone. You are vulnerable because you want this so much, and that's not a bad thing. But Caitlin and I have been there, and we want to protect this audience, truthfully, and protect ourselves to where we
Mm-hmm.
can come on to have another episode again next week. And we're not canceled and thrown in the garbage can. And now we can't help anybody because we said you should ask your doctor questions before getting a vaccine or something like that.
Right. I would also say, transparently for myself, I'll only speak for myself here. There have been areas that I haven't known where I stand on something. And I'll give you a
Yeah.
super controversial one. I grew up being told life starts at first breath. And so I didn't really have a stance on abortion for a really long time. In fact, it took me getting ready to have my second baby and a friend of mine who was working with the same midwives asking me if I was comfortable with the fact that the two midwives that were delivering both of our babies went to like a women's march,
Like a
pro
pro-choice march. Yeah.
pro-choice. It was kind of like because of the Supreme Court things that were happening, and could Roe versus Wade be overturned in a women's march. It wasn't like only one thing, but she's like, these same people at this march are pro-choice and not pro-life. And can you like trust them to be your provider? And I looked at her and I said, well, I don't ask my providers their political affiliations. I don't ask them how they vote. I don't ask them their stances on these things. I don't ask my dentist that. I don't, and I haven't thought to ask my midwives that. Like, you may have chosen one of these midwives because she professes to be a Christian. And so this may surprise you. So, but it's not something I'd considered. And this unleashed like an intense amount of conversations about abortion. And she's like, how could you even say that? You're a Christian. You have to be pro life. And it made me start thinking about, well, what would it mean to be pro life? And I had this thought, well, I've been taught that life starts with the first breath. And then a very pregnant Caitlin with my second child, I've already given birth to a baby, thinks back to my first pregnancy after a very long infertility journey and hearing my daughter's first heartbeat and thinking, oh, thank God it's a living baby.
Mhm.
And I didn't in that moment think, oh, I believe babies' lives begin way before they're out of my body taking their first breath. But I remember in that moment, thinking back to that moment, saying, okay, I believe babies are alive before they come out of my body. And then I remember thinking about a client of mine who had a stillbirth before she started working with me, and the impact the story had on me after having had a live baby, realizing the difference in having a dead baby. And it really challenged for me, what does it mean for a baby? Like, when does life start? And so that question made me consider, honestly, my lack of stance on pro life or pro choice, because I really hadn't thought hard about it. As a Christian, I know that sounds so weird, but it just was where I was at.
It's just you.
And
You were taught this one thing all along. And honestly, unfortunately, with all the great things that came from the church that Caitlin and I were raised in,
this was not a
the
great
I'm
one.
right and you're wrong song was
Mhm.
like our most favorite hymn. Like, what set us apart were like the, 5 or 6 core things that we believed that was different from the rest of Christianity.
Mhm.
And everybody who didn't believe these things was either not saved or was somehow being like deceived by a demon or some other crazy permutation of untrustworthy and stupid. And so much of what we were raised to believe was this sort of like, it's settled, we're right, they're wrong.
Yeah, we have the truth and nobody else
We
does.
have the rightly divided revealed word of God.
Mhm.
Only us. And so you just didn't think to question so many of these things.
Yeah. And honestly, right about when I was coming to this realization of my own that I didn't believe what I had been taught to believe, was also right about when I started questioning a lot of other things. And
Yes.
so it was all an interesting timing. Well, this literal occurrence was around the time Sophia and I had batch recorded our first 10 episodes. Like, the
Mhm.
podcast was getting ready to be released. Soon after it actually was released was when, like, soon after this period of time happened and I actually had this baby, was when we were getting ready to release the podcast, and the world shut down and these
Mhm.
marches started and all these things were happening. And to come blazing out with like my newfound belief, which I'm not even going to state completely on this podcast, because honestly, it's not your business, it's my business, would have been something so hard for me to even articulate at the time, because I was still working through it. I feel like God was still convicting and refining me and instructing me that it wasn't the time, and we were just starting to learn how to navigate this interesting online world. And there are going to be a lot of people that listen to this episode and go, "You fluffy Christians, why aren't you taking a stronger
You
stance?
are
Why aren't
lukewarm,
you?"
the Lord will spew you out of his mouth.
I don't know what to say to you if that's how you feel. We're probably going to lose listeners for this episode in and of itself. But I can say there is this like beautiful thing about a faith journey that God is continuing to take me on, that I am so much more capable of loving and helping people because of, that if I had just come out the gate really strong about all my changing beliefs, I probably wouldn't have been able to stand as long as I have.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have been able to deliver to you so much of what you've already received from us if we have been pulled off the airwaves because we don't think that, I don't know, cats are people or something that I really don't know. Whatever controversial take that, cats are people and should have
No,
full
that
rights.
people can have cats, that people can be cats,
People can be cats.
people can be furries.
You could be, yes, that's a valid identity as a cat if you're a human being. Yeah. And we have and will continue to learn and grow and shape how we treat people in our practices and the things that we say publicly or privately in appointments. Because that's the other thing, guys. It's not an inconsistency. It's often that there's something, a different stance you'll take when you're sitting with an individual where you know their entire medical history and you know what they're up to. The recommendation that you would make to that person versus what you're just going to say into the airwaves is so different. Like, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was with one of my girlfriends and her son is like almost walking, like crawling, almost walking. And we were at the pool and I was in the jacuzzi and she's like, gosh, I can't wait till he's old enough to be able to get into the jacuzzi. And I was like, why can't he get in here? And she's like, well, they're like not, it's, it says like children under this age shouldn't get in there. And I was like, okay, that's for drunk, stupid people. Like,
It's
will
their
you be
liability.
able to, yeah, it's their liability. And like, I wouldn't say to the masses, hey, put your newborn in a jacuzzi. Like, no, but like, would I personally nurse my baby while my legs and torso is submerged in warm water and my baby's little feet are kicking in there? I would not have a problem with that. Like, but I'm not going to broadcast on the airwaves. This is my recommendation, is that everybody should put their babies in a jacuzzi. But in that situation, I was like, yeah, it's like liability here. And there is some of that for Caitlin and I, where like, I will say to people, if you've gotten your positive pregnancy test and then you start cramping and bleeding, you should go get checked out. Like, that's what I would say to the masses, because that's the most liability based, the most most conservative stance you can take on this. Out of an abundance of caution, in case you're having a subchorionic hemorrhage, in case you're having an ectopic, in case you're having an infection. Like, I can't know these things about you in the situations under which you're cramping and bleeding while pregnant. So when I make like an Instagram post or a podcast episode, I'm going to say the most cautious thing. But if I'm talking with an individual, I wouldn't recommend every single person. I don't think every pregnancy loss needs to be monitored by a physician. I think that almost always it's the saddest and worst part of life is death. And it's so awful and sad that this baby couldn't live longer, but almost always is this just something that your body can manage at home. There are situations in which that isn't healthy or recommended. And it's really up to each mom to check her intuition, to check her symptoms, to check her own level of comfort with things. But I do think by and large, too many people go running for medical management in these situations and end up harmed by it, when we could have just had a more natural approach and let things unfold. This is someone who's had a medically managed pregnancy loss. I had an ectopic in January, in case you missed that episode. But it's just, but when I'm going to, make a podcast episode about pregnancy loss, girl, you better believe I'm going to say the thing that is going to be most conservative, because potentially, if the wrong person hears me say, you can manage this at home by yourself, and she's got a long list of health problems that I know nothing of when I say this is so dangerous. I'm not going to say that to someone with a blood clotting disorder. I'm not going to say that to someone with a second trimester loss. I'm not going to, say that to someone who's having a potential ectopic or whatever. But like, these are the minority of situations when it comes to pregnancy loss. And the vast majority is like within the first 6 weeks, baby never really developed past a few little cells. We're not talking about mass amounts of blood loss, mass amounts of, you're not going unconscious from this and everything like that. In the vast majority of circumstances, this can happen naturally at home, but we're not going to just say that into the airwaves, because there's a potential to be hurt if you listen to, if the wrong person follows that advice, because it might be the wrong advice for you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just such a difference in what Caitlin and I would say in private space, in private practice, and, publicly on Instagram and in a podcast. And it's not us being liars or having no integrity. It's different audiences needing to hear different things, because you just don't know who you're talking to.
We're going to take a break from this episode to hear about one of our sponsors. You've probably heard me say this before, but preparing your body for pregnancy is not just about you. It's about both of you. Fertility is truly a team effort, and that's why I love the Fullwell Fertility Trio for Two. Fullwell was founded by a fellow registered dietitian and fertility expert, Ayla Barmer, and this bundle was designed to support both partners in the months leading up to conception. It combines their top-rated prenatal vitamin, omega-3 fish oil, and a fertility booster supplement that covers things like CoQ10, N-acetylcysteine, alpha lipoic acid, and organic ashwagandha root extract. The nutrients here support overall egg quality, sperm health, fertility, and even your stress resilience. If your partner's semen analysis looks normal, or if it's suboptimal and we need to improve things, nutrition plays a key role for things like sperm motility, count, and DNA quality. For women, these same nutrients help with ovulation, egg development, and healthy hormone balance, not to mention mitochondrial support, which is a huge piece of how your gametes mature and get ready to be that queen egg or that king sperm that make it to combining to form an embryo. These things are foundational for a strong, healthy pregnancy. I personally love that Fullwell's formulas are third-party tested, they're evidence-based, and made with doses that actually match what the research shows we need. No fluff, no underdosing. So if you're planning to start trying this winter or sometime in 2026, or you've been trying to conceive for a while, it's time to think about starting to nourish your bodies for what's ahead, or take a step up from your current protocol to one that is high quality. Head to fullwellfertility.com and use the code FFF20 for 20% off your order. That's FFF20 at checkout. I'll drop the link in the show notes for this specific fertility trio bundle and for Fullwell, along with this code FFF20. Give yourself and your future family the best foundation with Fullwell's Fertility Trio for Two. There's a part of me that wants to list out the things that you're probably never going to hear us give opinions on. I think it's more likely you're not going to hear us give our private opinions on, and that's who and when should consider IVF. I mean, you might hear us
should be a mom and who should not. Though we may have personal opinions about whether our friend who's already had 10 kids should be TTC for the 11th. Maybe we think like she's the best and this is awesome and her kids are just thriving, and if anyone should have 11 kids, it should be this lady. Or maybe we're thinking no one should have 11 kids. I don't know, right? But you're not going to hear us say who should and shouldn't try to have a baby. There's a few. I've actually have talked about this briefly, but my criteria is so short for that. Are
you in a healthy, loving relationship? Can you take care of this child you're going to bring into the world?
Can you take care of this child without relying upon your community for your needs? Are you needing other people to buy your groceries, to pay your rent, to give you diapers? Is that your situation where you're dependent on other people working on your behalf in order to have another baby or a baby? Or are you is there active addiction happening in your home? That's another one where I draw a line and I say sobriety has to be the priority, and you can't try to get sober while trying to get pregnant. You need to really get some good sober time under your belt before you bring in the stress of a baby. But these are common basic.
Do you have a partner cheating on you and you're trying to save the relationship with the baby?
Or he doesn't actually want a kid or another kid, and you just really do?
Yeah. I mean, these are things that we might have strong opinions on and we might share.
Yeah, but we're not going to be individually well, if you voted for Kamala Harris, you deserve every single baby. Or oh, if you didn't vote for her, then you should never have a baby. Or these weird criteria that people come up with that mean you should or shouldn't have a kid. We're not going to tell you that. And we're
Yeah.
not going to not help you because you, I don't know, aren't in the exact situation that we think everyone should be in before trying to have a baby. We're not going to be like, turn off this podcast episode unless you are fully
Dot, dot,
vaccinated,
dot.
because
Right.
people who aren't don't deserve babies.
Yeah. You won't hear my opinion on vaccinations.
Nor mine.
You won't hear my
Because,
opinion on politics.
yeah, you're not going to hear us talking about government shutdowns or who that's impacting or what we should be doing about it. Because this is a
Part
fertility podcast, y'all.
and sometimes Sophia and I don't even agree. So you don't want to hear
Sometimes
us
we don't even
disagree online.
But what's so good about it is like, I don't know, we've disagreed about we're in pretty close alignment about a lot of things. But in other things, we're I don't know, we've seen different parts of life and I don't know, we just sort of think differently. And I see that as like a strength among us. I see it, helping us consider the other point of view, uh, bringing to light issues that maybe the news or the people that we like and follow are deliberately being quiet about.
Mm-hmm.
About, I don't know, we've also seen so many people step into this arena and just go through the wood chipper of public
Mm-hmm.
opinion. And we don't want to do that. We just don't want to spend all of our time on that. I want to spend my time telling you the common pitfalls of fiber supplementation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think you need to hear from me,
Mm-hmm.
not what amount each family should get in SNAP benefits and where the income cutoff should be.
Should IVF be covered by insurance? Should corporations have to cover transitioning when they're, just like stuff
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm.
it's just not going to help us help you. And so if you've been listening to us for a while and you're like, why haven't they ... I hope this answers some of that question for you. And I hope you
Mm-hmm.
hear not that we like think our stance is all high and mighty, but that like we're humans with feelings too. We're Christians with honest, active, I would say, ministries in different areas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Things that God has really called us to, and in our own communities locally are trying to do our best to walk with God, walk with Christ as our Lord in how we conduct ourselves, how we support our churches and our communities, our neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that we are trying to be the Christians online that are leading with love, with integrity, that are leading with a gospel message. You're not going to not hear us talk about Christ. If you're a Christian and you're my patient, my most privileged thing to do with you is at the beginning or the end of the appointment when I offer, do you want to pray together? But I'm also not going to exclude people that aren't Christians from my practice because I have a lot to help
Yeah, for sure.
the Buddhist PCOS client. And I have helped a lot of Islamic patients. Some of my most favorite TTC stories of people in the Islamic faith have been the fact that they have gotten pregnant during Ramadan or right after. And I think so much of it has to do with fasting and the impacts of that on their insulin
Mm-hmm.
resistance
Mm-hmm.
and it trickling down to improve their egg quality and ovulation. I think that's really cool. And we should talk about that. Maybe we should do a whole episode on religious things that could
We
improve
tried
your
to do
fertility.
that, but then we both were like, we did try to do that, but then it sort of fell in this category where we're like, oh my gosh, we don't really know everything like that much. And I don't want to
We
be the person
don't.
on here that's like, in Ramadan, you fast from this time to
La
this
la
time.
la
And
la.
everybody's like, actually, no, you don't, because
Exactly.
this and
Okay.
this
The
and that.
controversy. But let me
Yeah.
tell you a few episodes we've recorded or we've tried to record and we've chosen not to release for one reason or another. We recorded an episode on surrogacy. We chose
Mm-hmm.
not to release that. We recorded an episode on fertility and Judaism. We chose not to release that. We tried to record an episode on stem cells and the controversy in how they're obtained, how they could potentially be used in regenerative wellness and fertility settings. We're choosing actively not to air an episode like that. There have been a couple episodes that we've not aired because something happened with the recording. We have some great episodes on dental work and fertility that, gosh, I wish we had the recordings that they came through and they just didn't.
Yeah.
But there
Or
have
the
been
one
things.
with the about like libido. That was such a good one too. And
Oh, yeah.
we ended up not being able to release that one. So sometimes it's just because somebody's microphone wasn't plugged in all the way, or they closed their computer too soon and the data was lost, or,
Yeah.
just connectivity problems and things like that. And sometimes it's like we record something and we're like, this comes across as really ignorant, or the way that we said this, like now that we have seen more of the truth of how this particular industry is run, I don't really want to post the episode about
Mm-hmm.
this, because people who choose to participate in this industry are going to be really offended by our take. And people that choose not to are going to really come after the people that have done it. And we don't really want either of those things to happen. We don't want to sow discord. We don't want to promote division. And we don't want to go negative like this. That we already talk about loss and death and disability and broken dreams and just like the sad, sad parts of human existence on here, because they are inherently a part of new life, is death, disability, and loss. And so that's hard enough and heavy enough for us on this podcast that we're not going to do episodes where we're like, let me tell you everything that's wrong about what this politician said recently.
Mm-hmm.
Or let me stitch it, even on Instagram, let me stitch this video where somebody said something really stupid and let me highlight how dumb they are. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you my take on why this influencer who promotes cord blood banking or whatever is ill-informed and evil. I'm not going to go negative. We don't want to be negative on this podcast. We end with the yeah girl. Like we want, like to be honest, the take that Caitlin and I have on all of these topics is that of hope, belief in humanity, what it is capable of, where it is going. We have so much hope. We have so much joy. And that in and of itself is very controversial in this time, because people are saying, if you are not terrified for your very life, then you are not paying attention. If you're not inflamed about this issue or that issue, it's because you are privileged and you don't care. And like they want, so many people at this, like a contest of who can be the most upset, who can be the
Mm-hmm.
most miserable. And we don't, why are you wanting to have a child if life is just a terrible, sucking hole of nothing but despair and anguish moving forward? What would be your reason for wanting to perpetuate the human race if that's truly what you believe? That's not what Caitlin or I believe. We have hope and joy and a vision for the future that is very positive. And we want you to be a part of that. And we want you to bring your child into that. And that's why we're here. Even other brands we've worked with, it's like we see the tone that they've taken over the past couple of years. And we're like, gosh, do you even want people having babies? You're so, so negative. Isn't the whole point of you being this like fertility or prenatal or like whatever brand to bring hope and joy to those who are looking forward in life? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing trying to have a baby if not looking toward a brighter future? Are you doing this
Mm-hmm.
because you think it will make your life worse? Like, what are we doing? And that's what we want you to have on this podcast. Hope. We want you to have encouragement. We want you to have light. We want you to walk away from these episodes maybe challenged, maybe questioning some things, but with hope that the answers are out there for you and that this is a
Mm-hmm.
worthwhile endeavor. And if we just spend our time talking about how evil this new bill that passed is, or who's to blame for this delayed thing or whatever. Where's the hope in that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think the other thing we want you to have is actionable information. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can't listen to us because we disagree on politics, IVF access, when life starts, any of these things are unstated things, then you're not going to hear us tell you why you should consider this particular prenatal or why you're the person that maybe should add iron into your preconception supplement stack.
Mm-hmm.
Or, there are going to be a number of things that anybody's going to disagree with my personal take on, including my own spouse. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, like, is that stopping him from eating the food that I make or wanting to make out with me? It's not. So I want you to show up to this podcast going, I'm ready to learn. I know these girls care about me. I know they're girls. They're in my corner. They're fighting for me. They're fighting through controversy for me. They're muzzling themselves on things that maybe they really care about because they actually really care about my health, my journey, my future, my family.
Mm-hmm. And that we have a close relationship with each other, and we actually have healthy, thriving, real life relationships to where we don't need to shout our ignorance into the microphone. We have other people to do that with, where then they can say, that's a really ignorant take. You're being annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally.
we can say, screw you, don't tell me that. And then they'll still love us the next day and help us
Absolutely.
not be so ignorant anymore. Hey, podcast listener, we are taking a break from this episode to talk about our sponsor for this season, and that is, of course, Tempdrop. It has been no secret on this podcast for many years that Caitlin and I love Tempdrop, specifically because it measures your basal body temperature while you are still sleeping. This is so key to anybody who is, one, like me, and forgets to take their temperature in the morning, and two, who wakes up at inconsistent times. When you are manually using a basal body temperature thermometer, like one that you'd find at the drugstore or buy online, you have to take your temperature at the exact same time every morning. This is great if you have a really predictable schedule and you always know what you're up to. You wake up at the same time every day without fail. This is not great for those of us who maybe are trying for a second or a third baby and are already waking up in the night with our existing children. And so when exactly was our temperature the lowest and which one are we counting as our wake up? This is also not great if you are a shift worker or if your schedule shifts even slightly. I'm talking about a 15-minute difference in when you wake up is going to skew your basal body temperature. That is why we love the Tempdrop on this podcast. It is such an easy and simple way to automate your fertility awareness method, regardless of your unique journey. It is great for if you have a irregular cycle, like if you have PCOS or you're recovering from hypothalamic amenorrhea and you want to know when and if you're ovulating at all and you don't have like a super consistent chart to start with. And it is great for anybody who just wants one less thing to think about. Tempdrop does not rely on your memory. It relies on science-backed data that is always improving and always growing and is truly the highest quality. Tempdrop is committed to supporting individuals with connecting with their bodies. They support to make things more accessible rather than replacing existing methods. Tempdrop is here to make what you're already doing easier. So if you want to try out Tempdrop and sort of automate your fertility awareness temperature taking, use code FFF15 at checkout at tempdrop.com. Yeah, and we've also, honestly, gals, we've seen some horrors. We have been to the puppet show and seen the strings on a lot of these controversial takes. And it's not that we are ignorant, it's that we've seen so much. And some of the times we're like, oh, girl, you know not what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you're doing. Oh, no. But it's like, it's not really my place to reveal this all to you. It's not really my
Hey, Sophia and I believe in a living God, and we are not that God. And we don't want to play God. I'm not the judge, the jury, and the executioner.
Dude, and
I
God
don't
help
want to be.
us if we are wrong about something, you know?
Yeah.
Like if we have a controversial take and it is wrong, like God help you, you know? Like maybe we are wrong sometimes.
We are wrong sometimes.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, we definitely are wrong sometimes. And there's so much history behind some of this too. I'm thinking specifically right now about being married to somebody who has been in many international conflicts and has seen the way that other nations behave in certain situations. And then we have people in our nation saying, hey, we should be more like them. And we're like over here going, oh, girl, you
You
don't
don't
know what
even
you're
know.
saying.
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fragility of life that comes along with
Mhm.
that. And just seeing some things that the rest of the population is like not privy to. And thank God. It reminds me of that line. Okay, you guys are going to hate me for this. There's a line in Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, when Caitlin has already checked out at this point. But it's basically Aragorn talking about being a ranger, being one of the last of the blood of Numenor, being a Dunedain, like, you know, his stop laughing at me. This is real, Caitlin. Okay, listen, this is what he says. He's talking to the hobbits and he's like, it's actually the gist of what he's saying is like, it's actually our goal that you get to sleep peacefully in your bed every night and that you don't know what hunts you and that you don't know the horrors of what is possible. And it's actually a mercy to you that you can go marching in the streets for this thing that you think is so good. Good for you. You know, I'm glad. If you were to see what the end result of what you're hoping for becomes, you would not be doing this. But it is Aragorn being like, I'm the one that took the call and said, yes, I will allow them to remain ignorant of such things because it means that they remain innocent and they remain peaceful and they remain joyful. And so I will take the bullet so that you don't die. And that is not that we're like taking bullets here, please, but like we we don't necessarily need you to know all the dark sides of everything in the world. And maybe we don't want to make you privy to how horrible some things can be because right now you need to reduce your stress and you need to get better sleep and you need someone to care for you and to love you and to sort of shield you from these things so that you can have your healthy baby and your healthy
Mhm.
pregnancy.
Mhm.
And so we're not just going to pop off about every awful consequence of everything that we've seen and the dark way that some of these choices can go because you don't need that right now, girl. What you
Mhm.
need is the common pitfalls of fiber supplementation. Well, you know, what you need is
The best
all
prenatal.
the best prenatal, all the reasoning behind adequate
Eating fish.
electrolytes,
Mhm.
eating fish. Yeah, we don't need to talk to you about the fishing industry and every single thing that's right and wrong about it. We just need you to know that
There
you
are
need those
podcasts for
omegas.
that. If you want that, go find it. Man, that's just not what we do here.
Hmm. Yeah, truth, truth, truth. And it's not gonna be what we do here. Also, we have no intention of making this a political or religious or superstitious or bullying podcast where we just point out all the things we don't like about everybody around us and mock them. We don't want to do that. I would
Mm-mm.
rather, you know, this is even the take I take on Instagram, and I got to remind myself of this sometimes. It's like when I see somebody being like, sperm live in the vagina for 7 days. I want to make in fact, I have stitched a reel together being like, ooh, nice try, but no, actually, the vagina and the cervix are different. And you on this reproductive rights podcast should know that is different. And no, they don't live in the vagina for 7 days. Like I want to come on and do that. But instead, do you know what? I'll just make my own post where I just say,
You put the
sperm
news,
can
good
survive
news
in the
out in the ether.
cervix.
Right.
Hey, did you know that your vagina is acidic and sperm don't live there? So you don't have to try to like scoop up the goop that fell out after you had sex, because it's only what's in your cervix that matters. I'll make that post. So you're like, oh, okay. Instead of like, let me dump on somebody who was wrong, because God forbid I'm ever the one that was wrong. God forbid it's Caitlin or I who ever have the wrong take on something. We don't want you to then dedicate an entire episode to how dumb we are.
Oh my God, that happened to me on something that I wasn't wrong about, and I lost sleep for like a week. I remember
I
this weight
remember.
loss PCOS gal basically say, like, that PCOS expert that says calories in and calories out don't actually matter. It's hormones that matter. And I remember being like, first of all, she took that totally out of context, but I'm not wrong. Hormones do matter. It's not just calories. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
If hormones don't matter, like what are you doing listening to this podcast? And the same thing with people like that get enraged when we say that diet has an impact on fertility. People get really mad when or that, your weight has an impact on your fertility. People get really mad about these things. There are people with a very external locus of control where they don't actually believe that their choices impact their lives, and they think it's only everyone around them and policies around them and things surrounding them that are impacting them. And then we have people that go so far the other direction and think that they're like the next god, and like everything that they do
Has to be
impacts
measured and
everything next to them.
counted,
Like,
and if it's
yeah, or
not
they
perfect,
project some sort of energy field within themselves that either makes them fertile or not fertile or some kind of crazy crap like that. A controversial take. That's crazy. But yeah, something for everyone.
We've beat the dead horse. We hope you love us and you stick around.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't yet and you do love us and you're thankful for what we're doing, truly, girl, I've talked to so many people lately that are like, your podcast helped me get pregnant. Your podcast is why I chose not to do this thing that was not a good next step for me. Your podcast, this and that. And it's in my automatic response is, have you left us a review yet? And here's one thing. Did I say this recently? I had a client that was like, no, because I have Spotify and I only can rate in there. And I was like,
Yeah, or I'm not in the US and I don't have like Apple Podcast or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
say it, get on your girlfriend's phone at work or whatever, or a family member who does have Apple, and go into their Apple podcast and leave us a review in theirs. Or even better yet, if you've done it in yours and you can find a friend's, go do it, because it helps other people find the podcast. So please consider that if you've made it to the end of this episode and care. But I think we should wrap this bow with the Yeah Girl.
Yeah, you know what? You just inspired me to a yeah girl, because I was swimming, my friend that I was swimming with, whose son wanted to get in the jacuzzi. So she invited another friend to join us at the pool. And her other friend, I noticed in the parking lot, there was like this girl sort of looking at me. And I was like, hello, and if someone I'd never seen, but she was like looking at me as she was like loading up her stroller. So I gave her a smile and like
You're
half
like,
a
do I
wave.
have a booger on my nose, or do you
No,
know
or
me?
just like, I don't know. I kind of sort of took it as like, is she trying to place me? Like maybe she's seen me
Am
before,
I
but
a
like,
doppelganger?
yeah, exactly. And we're in
Mhm.
Coronado, California, which is like a really small community. And my husband's career also has like a very small community where everybody knows everybody. And so just sort of one of those things where I was like thinking she was looking at me like, do I know her? And I didn't recognize this gal, but I, gave her a little like, hey, I'm not a threat to you. Like, smile and wave, like, yeah. And so then we get to the pool, and my friend Holly, who had invited me, was like, oh, I also invited my other friend whose name I'm totally blanking on right now. Let's say her name was Mackenzie. I invited Mackenzie. I invited my friend Mackenzie. Hope that's all right. And I'm like, let's see. This is your pool membership we're using here. Like, you don't got to run it by me. But then, so we get there, and Mackenzie's kind of shy and quiet. And after a little while, she was like, hey, I just want to tell you, like, I follow you on Instagram and congratulations. I was like,
Mm.
oh, thank you. And she had her little 5-month son there. She's like, I hadn't had my period in years before I started following you. and I hadn't
Aw.
ovulated and all these things, and you helped me so much.
Hmm.
And here I am with my little baby. And I just was like, well, this is delightful. That's why you were looking at me. I didn't say that, but I was like,
Mhm.
okay, that's why you were like, is that Sophia?
Do I know that girl?
Yeah, do I know her? And though she and I had never met in person, she had seen me on the internet, and
Mhm.
thank God the information that I put out there had helped somebody. And then at the gym again this morning, there was another pregnant gal who told me how she'd had a loss earlier in the year, and now she's 15 weeks pregnant, and how she's been following me and it's helped her so much. And it was just
Hmm.
so cool to see that the efforts that we've been putting forward. I mean, this feels like Caitlin and I talking to each other on microphones,
Mhm.
like a weird topical phone call that just
Mhm.
goes out into the internet, and who knows where it goes from there. But it feels so good, and such a great connection when we actually get to see the fruit of our work, and somebody who's never spent a dime, didn't hire us for anything, didn't buy anything from us, used the free content that we put out there, and it changed her life and got her pregnant.
I
Hell
love
yeah.
that.
That's my
I
hell yeah girl right there.
Hell yeah, girl. Well, I love that. Hell yeah, girl. We're Christian, but you'll probably find us cursing podcast. That's
Yeah.
controversial.
It is controversial. Yeah. Or are we deciding who's going to heaven and hell? And are we talking about that on my podcast?
Oh man. Okay, here's my yeah, girl. I finally pulled the trigger
A
on
controversial take, by the way, gun violence.
finally pulled the trigger on somebody to design my book cover for the How to
Ooh.
Get Pregnant with PCOS book. I'm pretty excited because I'm starting like a podcast tour of going on other people's podcasts to start like the stuff, to start promoting it. And I don't have a release date and there's still a lot to figure out, but I was like, we got to get the branding side of it starting going. So I need to know what the outside's going to look like. And so I paid her and we start next week and I'm stoked. I feel like this is a really fun next step and I'm excited about it. So
Oh, I
that's my yeah
can't wait.
girl.
Don't even know what it's going to look like. I'm trying
I
to
don't
imagine in my
either.
mind.
I can't. I know it'll probably be my brand colors, but who knows beyond that?
I hope it looks really beautiful.
It will, right? It has to. I've
It
been
does, but
reading.
sometimes my opinion of what's beautiful and other people's opinion of what's beautiful is different.
Here's what it will do. It will be simple and it will be easy to read in the smallest little square because most people are going to want to buy it on a little thing called Amazon where you're
Mm-hmm.
competing with other things and it needs to be easy to read. And it's partly why it's got a really direct name, How to Get Pregnant with PCOS, because I want anybody looking at it to know exactly who it's for and who it's not for.
Amen.
So it may be really simple, but that will be intentional.
I love it. Gosh, I can't believe you wrote a book.
I know it's like
I can't even
400
write an
pages.
email. That is so amazing.
You can. You could.
I can and I have, but it is a challenge for me.
You
Like
could
what
write
I
a
mean
book.
is like my
You
email
should.
list I do not even use because I'm like, oh my God, what will I say? Ooh. But yeah,
Well,
thank you. And you know what? I probably will write a book someday with your help and you cheering me on, Caitlin, because you are the best at that and you make me feel so capable. I could
you are.
never be where I am without you.
So
You're
if
the
that's not
greatest.
if that's not a testimonial for women supporting women and loving your friends well and cheering them on, that's the yeah girl of all yeah
Even though
girls.
she
If
made a
you feel that way.
controversial decision that wasn't in line with yours, and then you realize this doesn't actually impact me. No, I think that's really what it comes down to is people take this so extremely. They think that it's like danger to the world if you don't agree with them. But yeah, okay. Enough about that. Love you. Like, rate, review,
See you
subscribe.
next week.